Okay. I just want to tell you a little bit about the event that's coming up. So shoot away, Dr. Colleen. Ask me whatever you want to ask me.
So Michelle, I know that you are a author, a speaker, and a food story finder. So tell me, what is a food story finder?
Yeah, that's a good question. So so let me go back. Let me go back a little bit and give you a little context, a little background.
Okay.
I used to be obese. I used to be morbidly obese. And for 40 years, I battled my weight. For 40 years, I did every kind of diet that was out there. I did low carb, I did high fat, I did the cookie diet, I had surgery, I did all the fast, I did the cabbage diet, I did the
Mm-hmm.
shakes, I did everything imaginable to lose weight and keep it off. And here's the thing, I was good at losing weight, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
good at losing weight. I could go get on any diet and lose as much weight as I wanted, but I could never maintain it. So I always gained it back and then a little extra. So I yo-yoed for 40 years. And finally, I just got to the point where I needed some relief, right? And I couldn't take it anymore. And I knew what had been working for me in the past wasn't working. And I needed to do something different. And I knew about emotional eating, but I really hadn't connected the dots. I mean, I kind of knew it was this thing that was out there, but I hadn't really made it make sense for me. But I had a breakthrough. I had a breakthrough when I started reminiscing really about, growing up in the South and how I used to eat and my family and all of that. And I thought about this story. And the story I thought about was the one that my uncle told me. We were at his farm and we had a picnic. We were having a picnic, a cookout, barbecue, whatever you want to call it. And I asked him if he wanted some watermelon, and he said he didn't eat watermelon. And I thought it was strange. I'm like, who doesn't eat watermelon? Doesn't everybody love watermelon? What
Absolutely.
what
I
what?
love it.
And
Yeah.
he and so I'm trying to find out, do you not like the taste? Do you not want any right now? Just what's going on with this? And he just said, I don't eat it. And I kept pestering him, and he finally just relented and told me the story. He told me that when he was a kid, he was 6 or 7 or so, that he and some buddies stole a watermelon. They stole a watermelon from a neighbor's yard, and my grandfather, his father, found out about it and beat him with an inch of his life.
Mm.
Was severely. He beat him severely. Clearly, it was a beating that he never forgot. Let's say that.
Yes.
So, as he finished up the story, I said, "Well, Billy, do you think maybe the lesson was supposed to be thou shalt not steal?" And my uncle just looked at me and said, "I don't eat watermelon."
Mm.
So he was 70. He was over 70 years at that point.
Mm.
Over 70 years old, and it later dawned on me. It didn't even dawn on me when he told me the story, what actually happened. But as I started to think about how I felt about certain foods and how there were certain foods that I just craved and it seemed like I just wanted to eat them over and over. I couldn't get enough of them. This kind of clicked for me. And what clicked was that with my uncle, his experience around that watermelon was so painful that for 70 years he didn't eat that food till the day he died because the watermelon created a memory that he just could not bear to relive. So he didn't eat it. End of story. End of story. No discussion. I'm not having anything to do with it. And then I started thinking about like the foods that I always ate or the foods that I craved, the foods that I overate. And then I started to think that these foods are associated to pleasurable memories that I just want to keep reliving. And it hit me, Colleen, like a ton of
Mm.
bricks, that it is never about the food. It is about the story behind the food. It is about us wanting to relive the memories, the experience, the event that we associate with certain foods that are really pleasurable. And if we're in a space where we're not, where we're feeling, some sort of discomfort or some sadness,
Mhm.
some anger, some frustration, something where we need some relief, then our mind goes back to these pleasurable experiences that are associated to food, that are associated with food that we love, and we think that it is the food that we're craving, and what we're
Mhm.
actually after is the experience that surrounds the food. And if you're in a space where you're always feeling some sort of discomfort, right, where there's always something frustrating going on,
Mhm.
where there's always something stressful going on, where there's always something swirling around in the atmosphere, unless you have some other way to deal with it, your mind is always going back to these pleasurable memories that are associated with these foods, and generally they're pleasure they're foods that create some sort of pleasure, like sweets, right?
Mhm.
I don't even
Right.
like and I don't even like to call sweets food, right? I don't even like to call it food because it's not. But anyway, but it's associated with that, with
Mhm.
those things that taste really good, that
Mhm.
are and those things that taste really good are generally high in fat
Mhm.
or high in sugar or high in sweet, and they're associated with all these fun things that go along with that, and you get wrapped up in it. At least I got wrapped up in it, and I think what I did is what most people did. At least most people
Mhm.
like me who
Mhm.
who were eating for the experience. And so what I have coming up is a way for people to kind of get in touch with that experience. And this was born out of the book that I wrote, which is called Leaving Large, which is 21 of the food stories that I wrote that helped me get a handle on why I was eating what I was eating. And if anybody wants to download a free chapter, you can download a free chapter at leavinglarge.com. Then you'll get on the mailing list, and we'll have your information, which will be captured, and you can find out all the information that's related to any talks that we're doing around Leaving Large, and
Mhm.
more importantly, when the book is actually coming out.
So you're having you're. I'm sorry, Michelle.
But what we're doing in the meantime is, I'm giving anybody else an opportunity that wants to get in touch with their own food stories.
Mm.
I am here to say that I'm going to help you uncover your food stories. Like my work is helping you find your food story, face it, rewrite it, and replace it. And I have an upcoming workshop, an upcoming 6-hour workshop that we'll do over the course of 3 Saturdays. This coming Saturday on the 24th. Is that right? The 24th.
Yeah, next week.
Is that not
It,
okay? The 24th and the
it's the
31st.
20. Yes.
The 24th and the 31st. So it's not really it's the following Saturday. The 24th and the 31st we'll work for 3 hours on discovering your food story. And then on the 31st, we'll work another 3 hours in putting that food story together. And so what I want to explain is that this work is not about a diet, right? Because the reality is, to get from the body that you have to the body that you want, if you're serious about losing weight and you want to do that, the reality is you're going to have to eat less. You're going to have to eat less
Mhm.
and move more. There's no
That's
way
right.
around that. And what I found for myself was that I was eating too much of the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and I was doing it unconsciously. And what food stories do for us, food stories raise our consciousness about why we're eating a particular thing at a particular time. And
Mhm.
if we don't do anything else but say, and what am I feeling right now? Is it really hunger? And what I found for myself was that I spent so many years eating for reasons that had nothing to do with hunger. I first had to figure out what real hunger felt like. So I had to pull back the layer on that, because we think it's hunger, and many times it's something else. The desire to eat isn't always because we're hungry. The desire to eat doesn't always come from the fact that we're physically hungry. And part of the journey is to start figuring out the difference, is understanding that sometimes, quite frankly, we eat and we're actually thirsty, right? Sometimes we eat and we're actually jealous. How about that?
Mm.
And here's a jealousy piece. Somebody's having something that you think tastes better than what you have, right? Or you might even be full, right? I mean, really. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
how many times have you been out to dinner with somebody and like, oh, what did you get? Oh, look at, oh, that looks good, right? Then you look down at your plate, you're like, oh, mine doesn't look as good as yours. Yours looks better. I want some of that. Oh, let me taste it. I know I'm not the only person that's ever done that. I know I'm not. I can't possibly be that. Or the only person that's ever done that, or that used to do that, for that matter. Um, but the reality is that we have to really start thinking, what am I feeling in this moment? Is it really hungry? Is it really hunger, or is it something else that's driving my decision to eat? And when we get real clear on the only problem that food will solve is hunger, then it makes it easier to stick to whatever plan you choose. So I'm not saying, Weight Watchers is great, right? Atkins is great, South Beach is great, keto is great. All of that is great, but in order to do any of it, you have to change what you're currently doing
Mm-hmm.
in order to do any of it. And what happens is that we bump up against the change, and it becomes hard to make the change because we don't understand where our desire to eat something different that's on the plan comes from. And it could be, you're out with your friends, and I hear this all the time. I go out with my friends and I have this little salad and they have all this other good food. I mean, that's feeling like you're being deprived, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, you're only feeling like you're being deprived because that's how you see it. The reality is, if when you look at your plate and you look at that plate and you say, I see health, I see a better body, I
Mm-hmm.
see what I want to feel and look like in the future. That's what this plate represents. Then you can stick to the decision. But if you look at the plate and say, oh, everybody else is having everybody else is having the French fries,
Having.
you can't have
Mm-hmm.
it, then you do feel deprived. But you're looking at the French fry, you're only looking at the French fries for what they represent at the moment. You're not looking at what they will ultimately mean for the body that you don't want to have. So everything becomes a matter of the story that we tell ourselves about what food means.
You know,
In order for us to get better bodies, to feel better about ourselves,
mm,
we have to change our story. We have to change the story of what food means to us. Go ahead. You have a question.
no, I don't have a question. I have a statement.
Okay.
Michelle, my favorite story that you say, because it reminds me of my childhood too, is when you would come home and you're upset about something at school, and you would have your grandmother's peach cobbler. And because my mother used to make us peach cobbler, and it was like the best ever. She didn't make it, a lot, but I remember it's just, she's just a good cook. But that's what it is. It's when you're feeling sad or feeling down or feeling, and you want that memory of that feeling that food gave you. It's, and when you told me that, it was just amazing, because how many people are emotional eaters
Yeah.
and they don't even know why they're emotional
Right.
eaters. And then you help
Right.
them realize, so now they can have the memory without the peach cobbler.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it is. We set that the work is separating the food from the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the work is. And the thing with that peach cobbler and with my grandmother is that you know yeah, her peach cobbler was like fabulous for sure, right? And my grandmother was a great cook, but more than that,
Mm-hmm.
more than the cobbler itself, coming home and her making that peach cobbler represented some other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I would come home and she would be in the kitchen, I would have picked the peaches, right? She would have asked me to go out and pick the peaches. So I was a part of that. And
Oh gosh.
when I would come home, she'd be rolling out the crust and she'd be talking to me. She would be talking to me about school and what she did all day. And it would just be my grandmother and I in the kitchen sharing this sweet time.
Mm.
And so that's what that peach cobbler represented to me. It represented this moment, these moments that it was just this love fest going on between my grandmother and I. So when I can't think about that peach cobbler, as much as it was good, what was even better was the fact it was just me and my grandmother, in the
Mm.
kitchen, the two of us. So it's the love that it represents that you want to replicate, and then you put on top of that the fact that it's made with sugar, generally white sugar, and sugar is addictive. Is
Mhm.
so there's some other layers to it, but that beginning piece, what it represents is certainly
His love.
is certainly that moment. And in so many of those memories are like that. It's like I think about how this is going to sound super weird, but it is what it is. It's like my favorite muffin, right? For some people, it's the blueberry muffin, it's the chocolate chip muffin, it's all that. My favorite muffin is the bran muffin. And the reason that my favorite muffin is the bran muffin is because that was my grandmother's favorite muffin. And she
Mm.
would make it, and I would be in the kitchen with her. I would go to the store with her when she was buying the big box of all bran, and we're putting raisins in it, and we're doing it
Mm.
all together. So in in times of stress for me in the past, I remember very clearly going to grocery stores and just going, and they have these big giant muffins, the giant muffins, and the
Yep.
muffins are 700 calories per muffin, right?
Hmm. Or more.
Or more. And going specifically and buying a 4-pack or a 6-pack of those giant brand muffins. And I would eat them all. I mean, I could barely get to the car before I could rip open the package and eat them all. And I
Mm.
would just like sit there, just and once I started, to unpack all this, I thought to myself, you know what, if it was just about the food addiction, if it was just about the sugar, I would have picked something else. I
Hmm.
mean, any food would have done, any
Yeah.
sweet thing would have done. But I
Yeah.
specifically chose the bran muffin. And the reason that I specifically chose the bran muffin was because of the memory that was associated with
Hmm.
it.
Exactly
And
right.
so we have to, our work is just breaking the pattern. And that's what the food story does. Once
Hmm.
you develop your story around whatever food habit that you have, whatever food kryptonite that you have, whether it's multiple trips to the buffet because you want to get your money's worth, whether it's bran muffin, a peach cobbler, or macaroni and cheese,
Hmm.
or whatever, or potato salad, or whatever your once once you get to the story behind the first time you had that food, who was in the room, what you were feeling, what was going on.
Hmm.
Once you get to that story, it allows you to break the pattern. You just don't automatically give in or succumb to whatever craving might come upon you, because what you realize is that the craving isn't really for the food. The craving is for the situation that
Hmm.
food addresses or represents. And so when you can go to that and say, oh, you know what? I'm not really hungry. Or maybe you might really be hungry, but you can eat something healthy and be full, right?
Right.
The best solution to any craving is this. Any craving is this. If you're craving something, go eat something healthy. Maybe it's a piece of protein. Maybe it's a piece of lean fish, a piece of lean chicken if you're a meat eater, and some string beans and a
Yeah.
vegetable. And get full. Get full. Okay,
I
so
don't know what happened. We got
so
your technology.
technology, right? So here's the thing: get full on something healthy, get full on something nutritious,
Yep.
whatever it takes.
So your
Then
class is
what?
coming. I'm sorry,
Then
Michelle.
once you are full, right, with this nutritious thing,
Hmm.
and you still have the craving, then you know that there's an emotional need that needs to be met,
Yep.
because the only problem that food will solve is hunger, and you logically know that you're hungry because you just ate. So if you
Yes.
just ate and you are full and you still want to eat some ice cream, you still want to eat a piece of pie, you still want some cake, you still want some whatever it is, and you're
Hmm.
full, then you know that the desire for that food is coming from an emotional place. And to deal with an emotional space that you're in, it takes people. It takes people, not food. And that's why I don't say relationship with food, because what we have is relationship with people. What we
Mm.
do is manage food. And because we give food these superpowers, right? We give them the power, we give food this power that we attach to some emotion, it keeps us tripped up. It keeps us tripped up thinking that food can do something that it cannot do. The only
Exactly right.
only thing that it can do is solve hunger. So if we're in that space, then we need to like sit with it and say where is this coming from? And having a food story, right? Having
Mhm.
having a food story is a gateway to that. Having a food story is a gateway to some power around that. So
Mhm.
that's why I want to help other people write their own food story, because it was so powerful for me. It wasn't until I wrote my book, it wasn't until I unpacked these 21 chapters of food stories that I was confident that I'm never going to gain weight back again. That this is that I am where I need to be. And it's not hard to be there. It's not hard to be there because I'm not constantly battling food. I'm not constantly battling memories. I'm not constantly battling my body or hunger, because these food stories come in and fill in the gap. And that
Mm.
and that's where you want to be. You want to be at the point where once you start eating in a normal way for your body, that it feels natural to you, that it's not hard for you, that you're not always struggling saying I'm on a diet, that it feels comfortable. And it's a process. You just don't wake up, and you certainly don't wake up there and get there. But as you work through your stories, as you let me help you work through your stories, you can get there and get to a place where you don't you don't feel like, okay, I'm on this diet, but when I go back to eating my regular way, I'm gonna gain all the weight back. Here's the secret. The secret is, once you uncover your food story, you don't want to go back.
Mhm.
You don't want to go back. That is really the secret. People will look at me and they will say, "Oh my gosh, you have such willpower. You have self-control. You have self-discipline." I don't have any of that. What I have is lack of desire.
Mm.
I don't desire it. I don't desire to eat things that don't serve my body, because I know the real story behind those things.
That's
And
right.
once you know the story, then you can address the desire and get power, and get some real power
Mm.
over food.
That's exactly right.
That's the secret in your story.
And I think that's it, Michelle. So let's talk about your class that you got coming up. It's going to be, we'll put it on, on all the websites, the Facebook sites that we're live on right now. So it's the 24th and the 31st. So it's going to be
Mhm.
2 weeks,
Right?
and you're
It's
going
11
to be,
o'clock, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
okay, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard
11 to
Time,
2.
11 to
11 to
2.
2. Mm-hmm.
So that'll be 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time starting.
Mm-hmm.
That's still reasonable. It's a reasonable time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to walk people through how to identify their food story. And
Mm-hmm.
then by the end of the 2-day workshop, I guess you would say,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're going to have or had identified and rewritten their own food stories, and they're going to actually, and they'll have a workbook, right, that you have
Yes,
for them, and
yes,
they're going to be able to have that and take that and have something tangible to leave the
yes,
and
absolutely. So here's how it works. So the first Saturday, the
mm-hmm,
first 3 hours of it, we're really uncovering the components, right?
mm-hmm,
We're uncovering the components of your food story. And so we work through the 3 hours of that, and you'll have a workbook. I have some exercises that I guide you through for
mm-hmm,
those 3 hours. And then, all right, so that's on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the 6 days, all right, each one of those days, I ask you to do something, right? I have an assignment for you. Shouldn't take you very long, maybe 20 minutes, right? uh,
mm-hmm,
20 minutes to do this assignment. And these 6 days, right? You do this assignment on those 6 days. We convene again on Saturday, the next Saturday, the 31st, and we're going to take all the information from your 20-minute assignments throughout the course of the week, plus the information we discovered the Saturday before, and I'm going to help you write your food story. We're going to spend the
mm-hmm,
time on that Saturday crafting your food story. Once you get a draft of your food story, right, then I'm going to help you refine it, right? I'm going to help you refine it, write it. And after we refine it, then you're going to actually have a document. You're going to have your own story that you can go to. And here's what's so beautiful about this process is that you can repeat the process for any food, right? For any food, for any habit, for any emotion, for any of them. And as I think about some of the food stories that I wrote, one of them I wrote about always losing weight to go back to my class reunions, right?
mm-hmm,
So I had a story that I had to unpack around that. Um, I had a story about. I actually had two stories about ice cream.
mm-hmm,
I have two ice cream stories. I have another a story about barbecues and picnics, right? Who I and I say this, and I know I'm not the only one that goes to a barbecue or a picnic and you eat more at a barbecue or picnic than you would at any other time, right? You would, I mean, if you were just sitting down at your table normally, you wouldn't have three bowls of potato salad. Well, maybe you would. I don't know. I mean, I would. But at a picnic, I'm going to have three bowls of potato salad. Well, I used to. Let me say I used to. I'd have three bowls of potato
used to,
salad.
yeah.
Then I would have the deviled eggs, and then whatever was being barbecued, I had some of all of it. If there was chicken, I had chicken. If there were hot dogs, I had hot dogs. If they had burgers, I had all of it.
Mm-hmm.
They had baked beans. I'm having that too.
Or all the different desserts everybody brings. You got to have
All,
a little
all,
bit of
all of
everything.
it. All of it.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
And so, but
So
you
true.
you
So
start you
true.
start looking at that and you think, what is it about these types of events that make us forget the rules, right?
Mm,
That make us think that it's okay.
yes.
And what happens is that you say, well, you start thinking, it is okay because it's a barbecue, because it's a picnic. Well, you only do it once a year. Well, maybe you do, or maybe you don't. What if you go to a lot of barbecues and you go to a lot of picnics and you know a lot of people, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes something different, and the food becomes about the event. It becomes about the activity. It becomes about the entertainment. It becomes about all of that, and we end up overeating because we get the experience of the barbecue mixed up with the fact that the only really reason to eat is for nutrition and nourishment. So there's a barbecue story in
Yeah,
there.
I love all the stories. I know we're coming up on our 30 minutes.
Okay.
Real quick. Now, before we sign off, you did have one of your stories recently put where?
Um, which I just had a story.
Did
Which
you
one
have one
was
of
it?
your food stories featured on something?
It might have been. I write so much. Oh, but I do. I have a number of my stories. I think this
I
might
know
be.
you do.
I have a number of my stories that are published, and they are published
Okay, that's
on
what I
the
was thinking.
they're published on the creator platform called Vocal. It's
Hmm.
called Vocal Plus. You can sign in. You can sign into it. It's free. You can read any of the stories that I have published on Vocal, or you can download a free
How do you
chapter.
spell that, Michelle?
It's VOCAL.
Oh,
VOCAL. It's Vocal Plus. And you can put in creator platform and put in my name, find me, and the stories will come up. And so I have a story in there. The one that won the award was "The Cake Is in the Mail," which is about a story about my mother making cakes for Christmas. And then I have another story in there about donuts, a donut story from our home. My mother and I going to the donut shop. And then I have another story in there called Big Boned and Blue. And
mm.
the Big Bone in Blue was about how I felt when I was in the sixth grade and my weight was announced in class, and I was the biggest person in class, even bigger than any of the boys, and the effect that had on me. And so that's one story. And then I believe Lunchroom Misery is in there as well. um, lunchroom misery is there, and that is the story that in which I talk about going to a new school and
Oh yeah, that's tough.
being
Mm.
lonesome, and using food for companionship in
Mm.
this new school, and how that same desire and need for companionship followed me into my work career when I would be in business
Mm.
situations and not know anybody at the conferences. So, so that's how it happens. So it's if you want to check out any of those stories, I would love for you to. They're on Vocal Plus. They're under my name, and for anybody that is interested in looking to be a part of these workshops that are coming up, you can read those stories and it will give you a real sense of what a food story is like. But if you're interested in being a part of the food stories, here you can email me. You can email me at iambrandnewnow@gmail.com
I'll put
and
that in the chat.
ask for more details, and I can give you the details, and I can get the sign up form to you to participate.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach out to me on Instagram. If you want to reach out to me on Instagram at I am brand new now. If you want to reach out to me on YouTube, you can reach out to me on YouTube. And I say um, this is for anybody who has tried everything, because that's who I was. I was the person who tried everything and nothing worked. Nothing worked for me and gave me lasting success until I uncovered my food stories. And so, yeah, I'm without question, you're going to have to change your diet. Find one.
Mm-hmm.
You can do Nutrisystem, you can do Weight Watchers. It doesn't even matter to me what you do. But you're going to have to do something that supports you in changing how much you eat for sure,
Uh-huh.
and getting some exercise. But the food story helps push you through the blocks of when you feel like you can't do that program. Because when you get to the blocks of this food doesn't taste good, it's not enough, I wish I had this, I can't, it is because you have a food story that is rising up to block your success. And once you figure out the food story, once you figure out that it's not the food, it's the story behind the food, once you figure out that food is just a vehicle, it's just a tool, it's just a means to get you to the body that you want, then things will shift.
Yep. And then look at you. You're the perfect example of that.
and 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 it happened after 40 years. I here's what I want. I don't want anybody to have to for it to take them 42 years like it took me.
Mm.
So learn from every single mistake that I made. I want everybody to be brand new. I want everybody to be large. I want leave large. I want everybody to leave large, right? I want everybody to leave large. I want everybody to be brand new. I want everybody to find out that they can have power over food. They
Mm.
can have power over your dieting. Can have power over craving. They can have freedom that comes from that. They can have joy. They can cross their legs on an airplane. They don't have to get an extender seat on the airplane. They can walk without their knees hurting. They can
Mm.
play with their grandkids. They can go up the steps. They can wear whatever they want. They can be
Yeah.
confident when they walk in the room that they're not the biggest one in the room,
Mm.
right? I want everybody to feel that. I want everybody to know that that is so possible, that that is so real, and that it just, and you can do it a story at a time. You can do it a step at a time. You can do it a little bit at a time, but you can
Keep
do it.
going. Yeah. Just keep going. Keep your eye on the ball.
Yep, that's
All
right.
right, Michelle. Thank
All
you so
right,
much. I
all
guess
right.
everyone, we're going to put a link in to the chat to Michelle's class that's coming up. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye all.